Good morning and welcome to the July 19th County Commission meeting. If you'd stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, welcome and thank you for being here. I lost my note. Robert has the agenda, if you will, for getting your sound system if you need any additional hearing devices. And if you need a copy of the agenda, it's on by the door and in the folder, so next to Commissioner Bender. With that, we will start with routine business. Item 1 is to consider the motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Good. Item number 2 is to approve the County Commission minutes from July 12th.
So moved.
Second.
You two are going to have to get along today, or we won't be here forever. We have a motion and a second to approve the commission minutes. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion unanimously passes. Bills to be paid, and we have an amendment to this. We have to add Mr. Yellow Robe's payment of $27,069 to the total, which would make the total $944,260.09. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the bills as amended.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the amendment of the bills to be paid. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion unanimously passes. Item 4 is reports. We have the auditor's account with the county treasurer as of June 30th, the Register of Deeds report on fees collected in June, and the last item is the Minnehaha County Juvenile Detention Center report for the end of June. Item 5, personnel action. We have a motion, or we need a motion to consider the routine personnel actions.
Should I make that motion?
I'll second it.
A motion and a second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Item number 6, there isn't any. Item 7, no notice or request. Item 8, planning and zoning notices, there aren't any. And item 9, a petition for compromise. Dick, we are going to go for a record. Now's the time for an opportunity for public comment for any items that do not appear on the agenda that anyone would like to make comments about. We would be happy to hear those. No one's moving, so we'll go to the regular business. Item number 10 is to consider a motion to approve the preliminary plan 16-02 for Cedar Ridge Plan Development, 4 miles north of the Sioux Falls near intersection 257 and South Dakota Highway 115. Mr. Anderson, welcome.
Yes, thank you. Scott Anderson, County Planning. And this morning, this should also be relatively quick. This is a routine item where we bring forth a preliminary plan to you for your approval. This is a preliminary plan and final development plan for the Cedar Ridge Plan Development. As you indicated, it's about 4 miles north of Sioux Falls off of Cliff Avenue or Highway 115. This has been before you as the plan development. Now the applicant is bringing forth the preliminary plan, which will allow them to sell off the lots as they see fit and as they occur. So this is the property up, like I said, north of Sioux Falls. And as you recall, there are several sub areas. You can see the 18 lots that are encircling or going around this interior access road. This is what I would call a mixed-use plan development. There's the equestrian center and some ag uses, and then there's a residential component that sort of encircles that riding arena. It's been to the Planning Commission. It was recommended approval. They've met all the requirements for a preliminary plan, which are things like engineered road plans, an erosion control plan, a grading plan, a utilities plan. And they've met all those requirements and conditions, so it comes to you today with a recommendation of approval. And I will just be glad to answer any questions. There's not really any development out there yet, so there's basically no pictures to show, but I'd be glad to answer any questions you have.
Does anyone have any questions for Scott?
Scott, can you just educate me and tell me, so what is the next step in the process for them?
Well, the next step in the process is this enables them to market the lots for sale. And then once they sell those lots, they would bring in a final plat. And that's the instrument that would actually be recorded at the Register of Deeds. So the next step is they are free to start selling lots, and they will need to either construct the road to our subdivision standards following the engineered plans which they've submitted, or they can post surety for the construction. That gives them 2 years to build the road.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Scott or for the developers? Do you have any comments you'd like to make?
Move for approval.
We have a motion and a second to approve the preliminary plan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion unanimously passes.
Thank you.
Took you longer to drive over here than that. Item number 11 is a discussion on the resolutions for submission to the South Dakota Association of County Commissioners for legislative action. Mr. Wilson.
Commissioners, Robert Wilson with the Commission Office. Spoke to you several weeks ago about gathering ideas from commissioners, department heads for possible submission to the South Dakota Association of County Commissioners to be part of the legislative platform. And again, the process that we follow here and is established with the association and continued in the same manner for many, many years is that at the final meeting in July, the commission adopts whatever legislative resolutions you choose to, and those adopted resolutions are forwarded to the association for review by committee, and then ultimately review by the full association at the September meeting, and all approved resolutions become part of the association's legislative platform for January 2017. So this is the first step in looking at the resolutions that you wish to submit. Again, I spoke to you several weeks ago looking for ideas and just trying to generate that thought process to be creative and imaginative and bring any ideas to our attention that you would like to see considered. Today is only a discussion. We're bringing forward the 2 ideas that have been submitted to the Commission Office for possible consideration, giving you this opportunity today to flush out those ideas, and then we will schedule action for the Commission meeting next week, where you would look to take action on one or both of those resolutions, and if the one or both is approved, they would be then submitted to the association for consideration. Again, today is just a briefing, and the two suggestions that have come forward. The first one would be a resolution to establish responsibility for provision of indigent legal defense. Essentially, we would be suggesting that the state take over the responsibility and cost of providing indigent legal defense. That has come from the commission, and we would turn it over to your discussion, questions, and we'll try to help facilitate that discussion as you wish.
Commissioner Kelly?
I brought forward that one for a long time. I've been thinking, one of the areas that we have that's pretty expensive is the public defender and public advocate's office and the court-appointed attorneys. And this year, I think the resolutions committee is going to be pretty conservative. I have a feeling, at least, that there's going to be a lot that we're going to advise that we don't go in asking for money. That issues be statewide, not local. And so, I think the resolutions calendar is going to be a little lower than it was, simply because we've had pretty good luck the last 2 or 3 years. That being said, I do think there's an issue out there that, and Tracy sent me a memo. Did you write the memo? From who?
Tracy, would you come to the microphone, please? Sorry.
I may ask you a couple questions anyway. I believe I forwarded this to you, but
I received the information from David Carroll at Sixth Amendment.
okay. Stay there. Just in case.
Tracy, you do have to identify yourself, even if we know who you are.
Sorry. Tracy Smith with the Minnehaha County Public Defender's Office.
Anyway, nationwide, I think about 30 or 40 or maybe % of the state handles the indigent defense. In that article, if you had a chance to read it, it points out that the Sixth Amendment basically is the right to defense, the right to counsel. It does not specifically say counties. It just says we will grant. I'm paraphrasing, but by the same token, a lot of 40% of the states do it from the state level with varying degrees of either control or the whole operation. And there's challenges constantly because apparently the Sixth Amendment is a very fluid thing that goes, a lot of things go to the Supreme Court. They come back and say inadequate defense or whatever they may use. In South Dakota, and that article points out, where we compare with the rest. Basically, the state has very little oversight, if any, on the indigent defense side of it. It would be a significant thing to every county, I think. Now, one thing I'm not familiar with is the pool, because I don't believe we're a member of that pool. I know a lot of the smaller counties are, where if they end up with particularly a murder or a very serious felony, they can look to the pool. But I assume that, like any pool, that's probably a case where the losses are spread amongst all the people, all the counties. And I would assume Pennington's not in it either. But we do not have to participate. But I would assume their dues. It's just like any other insurance pool. That cost could go away, as could if the state itself took care of all indigent defense. A classic case down here is, of course, the penitentiary issue where the CO officer was killed, and we ended up with the defense costs on that. We tried to get something through the legislature, but I think they looked at it as a parochial thing, and we were unsuccessful in getting the state to look at least doing defense on actions created in a South Dakota facility. I would like to propose, and I haven't detailed this out yet, but I know we've got another week, so I got a little bit to work on. That we request the legislature to do a 2-year legislative study and bring in all the players, bring in the defense people, bring in the court, bring in the county commissioners, and look at this issue. There's a lot of information out there from SDACC. I haven't had a chance to read it, but I've got a couple of links that they've sent me as far as looking at this, because they have been looking at it. One issue, of course, is adequate defense. You take a small county, there's always that argument. They'll go back and say, well, listen, I did not have competent defense, and ask for retrials or whatever occurs. So my proposal is that and I'll have it more written more clearly, would be that we request the state legislature to do a 2-year study on indigent funding and control of indigent, pardon me on that word, defense.
Okay.
Basically it.
Thank you, Dick. Tracy, do you have any comments or any additional information you'd like to add?
I would just say that I agree with Commissioner Kelly.
This is the first.
I think it would be easier if we had a statewide system. I think we're only one of 3 states that do not have some level of statewide oversight. It would be easier as a public defender office to have one set of standards throughout the state when it comes to the quality of representation you receive, and Beetle is going to be the same as you receive, or the standards that we have to follow are the same throughout the states, and the quality of representation is going to be the same throughout the state. The funding is going to be the same throughout the state. The oversight is going to be the same. As an advisory board, the guidelines are the same. I'm not saying the county should ever relinquish control, but I agree, a statewide study with all the parties at the table to at least start the discussion is a good idea.
Any other questions? Mr. Miller, do you have any comments? Nope. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thanks, Tracy.
Item 2 is a resolution to allow for expenditures of county road and bridge funds for the supervision of county highways. Robert? Input?
This is very similar to a bill that came forward from Minnehaha County back in 2003. I had heard a lot about this prior to my coming on board with the county, and in the last couple weeks have had an opportunity to research this out a little bit. It appears that this was not an association bill at that time. It appears that it was drafted and submitted by Minnehaha County on our own. And in 2003, this bill was approved both in the House and in the Senate, and was vetoed by the governor, and the legislature failed to override the veto. And this would, the change simply would be that highway and bridge fund dollars could be used for construction, maintenance, design of county road system just as they are right now, but it would add to that list of approved actions, patrol or supervision of the county highway system as well. And so it would free up some of those dollars for patrolling activities from the sheriff's office. Would not be a mandate or a must-do, but would give the options. And so I know I've had a number of conversations with Sheriff Milstead about this. He is supports the idea of bringing it forward as the resolution, and that's the essence of that proposal, would just simply be to add supervision of the county highway system to allowable activities for road and bridge funds.
Do you have questions for Robert?
This bill, some of the arguments for it are that the state highway patrol is funded out of general funds, I believe. And so that's basically supervision of the highways on the state level, and they're using their general fund dollars to do it. I think the opposition, that may have come from the Sheriff's Association, I'm not sure, that bill. But the heavy AGC probably will have a lot of problems with this, because they don't want to see any funds diverted from building bridges. So, but it did pass the legislature pretty well. I didn't look up the vote. And Rounds, who had agreed to support it, didn't. So there were some last-minute lobbying that occurred there. And overriding veto is not real easy in the legislature. So I think it's worth bringing again. I don't know who brought it in, but
Commissioner Tully? Just so, because I have confessed I don't know a lot about this. You said that the state pays for the state highway patrol out of general funds. Did you mean out of highway funds? And
No.
That's
My understanding is
out of
that
their highway department
yes,
funds?
it is.
Okay.
Yes.
so then that would be an argument
Is-
for treating the counties in a similar fashion.
And that's probably what the legislature looked at. I'm sure there was extremely heavy lobbying, though, after the fact, and stuff you don't know about, but you just sense what happened.
Commissioner Bender, to your point, yes, this would mirror on the county level what we would be able to do with what the state is able to do with patrolling using highway and bridge funds already.
Okay, thank you.
Fairly restrictive. You know, it's just not carte blanche to use it, but it's for the patrol. It's definitely for on the highway type stuff. And I imagine the state, the DOT is probably nervous about loosening up any funds either. So it would be a battle, but it would be a good one. I certainly think it's worth bringing in. And I don't know why they wouldn't write the bill almost the same as they had before.
I would just simply say, in my conversations with Sheriff Milstead, I think, not speaking for him, I believe he feels that we would have some level of support moving forward with this bill.
Kirsten, do you have a comment?
Yeah, and just a couple of points about the prior bill too. I mean, this wasn't totally open, the use of these funds last time around. It was restricted to counties of a population of 50,000 or more, and you could only use up to 30% of that fund for the supervisory purpose. So I don't know if that's what's contemplated again this time, but there were certain qualifiers on that last time, so.
Probably want to relook at the 50,000.
Do you know if the highway superintendents and the sheriff's departments associations are going to do anything with this, or are they expecting the county commission to do that?
I have not had those conversations. I would anticipate having some of those conversations prior to next week and bringing that forward for your actual consideration. And again, this week was more of a vetting process of is this something that you wanted to consider when we ask you to consider actual resolutions next week.
Okay. Obviously, we do have an extra week. I'm guessing next week when we have a full county commission's staff here and commissioners will probably discuss one or two other items. The administration, I think, will probably need to help us with writing those bills so that we get the information to the Association of County Commissioners correct. And I don't know if legislative research will help with that or not, but I do appreciate the fact that you need to be involved. Any other comments or any other resolutions that need to be discussed? Commissioner Bender?
Robert, I just, one other question. Has the commission office polled department heads? I mean, have we had an opportunity? That's what I thought. So they have had an opportunity to have input into this if they had other ideas or
Yes.
issues they wanted to pursue. Okay, thank you.
We spend all year complaining, and then when we ask for what's your complaint, put it in writing. Nobody wants to do it, including the commission sometimes. So.
That's a good question, though. Thanks for asking it, Gene. Item number 12 is the County Commission Liaison Reports. Are there any? Any new business? Any old business? There is no executive session today.
But do you want to remind people that the meeting next week is on Thursday?
Good point. We do have finalization, if you will, of a preliminary budget next Thursday at 9 o'clock. There might be some other agenda items, but it will be a limited agenda. If not, look for a motion to adjourn.
Make that motion.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And we are adjourned. And Dick, if you wouldn't have talked so long about
I know
those
it.
two.
I know it. I know it.
Meeting adjourned.
I appreciate your input on that.
Good
though.
comments.